Welcome. Hello. How are you? Welcome, everyone. It's great to see you all here. I am Jenny Spanos. I'm a national co-director with the Move to Amend Coalition. This is the Ecology Network. It's a space um, that we come together. Uh, it's focused on the relationship between corporate power and environmental catastrophe. We gather to in our work, in our love for the environment, and our desire to end the corporate destruction of the earth for profit and create alternatives for a truly livable world. And it's going to be an exciting conversation tonight. I can't wait to learn more about the work that's happening in South Texas. Um, go over a couple of ground rules, of course, be respectful, recognize that we all come to this space with unique and brilliant perspectives, and that we want to be mindful and respectful for everybody's time and to give everybody an opportunity to speak. Our agenda, as most of y'all know, is we come into the space and we hear from somebody, eco warrior doing the work in their communities, and how it connects with the work that we're doing. We learn from each other, and for me, it's one of my favorite parts of the week, right? Because that's what brought me to this work. Originally, I came to this work through journalism. I covered, government, and more specifically and directly was the oil spill, the BP oil spill here in Pensacola. And after seeing the stranglehold that these companies have over our communities, honestly, I kind of went to a dark place first, and then connected with the movement and connected with people who were making a difference and knew and know that they can make a difference, right? So that kind of inspired me. I connected with Move to Amend because once I learned about corporate constitutional rights and money, shortly after that, the Citizens United came down. So that's how I learned about um, the insane notion that a corporation is considered a person in the eyes of the law, given all of the rights and privileges in the amendments that we have fought hard, mostly, well, for all of them at some point in time. So I am once I learned about that, of course, this is where I started my whole focus, right? And realizing that this intersectionality between all of our issues stem from this insane notion. And of all, of course, as most of y'all know, the most egregious hijacking of our corporate, our constitutional rights was the 14th Amendment. The amendment meant to free, our brothers and sisters from bondage, as we had learned in the history books. And just to realize that that's the one they hijacked. And of the first 200 cases, 159 of them were business entities. And I never knew this. That's, again, why I am so passionate about this work, because this is the foundation on which the power they have built is based upon, right? So that's a part so important that we get to those roots. So without further ado, again, welcome everybody. I'm excited to have this conversation, and I'm going to turn it over to my dear friend and most respected colleague, Alfonso Sadana.
Thank you, Jamie. Yes, my name is Alfonso Saldaña, and I also have the privilege of serving as one of Move to Women's national co-directors. And I'm also honored to be sharing this space with all of you tonight. I see some regular faces as well as some new ones. So for those of you that are new, as Jenny was saying, just a little bit about Move to Women. We are a national, nonpartisan, nonprofit grassroots coalition of over 800 endorsing organizations and hundreds of thousands of individual supporters across the nation working to pass the We the People Amendment, which would end corporate constitutional rights and money as a form of free speech, tackling corporate rule at its root. And again, as Janie was mentioning, the Ecology Network is a space that we created to bring together activists, experts, and community leaders to explore how corporate rule drives economical destruction and to strengthen those connections between the environmental justice work and the movement for real democracy. Two of Mutual Man's core principles are to support all grassroots-led movements that challenge corporate personhood and to amplify the stories of and the work of those most affected by corporate-rooted injustice. We're trying to build a more just and truly democratic future at the end of the day, and that is why I'm especially excited to introduce our guest speaker tonight. Dr. Christopher Basaldú is a scholar, a distinguished member of the Carrizo Comecrudo Tribal Nation, and a co-founder of the South Texas Environmental Justice. Dr. Basaldú has been forging powerful connections between indigenous sovereignty, ecological protection, and the fight against corporate overreach across South Texas. Dr. Basaldú works on calling out the real cost of unchecked corporate power, from the displacement of Boca Chica Village residents and the threat posed by Starbase to threats posed by projects like the new LNG plant currently under construction. There are clear examples. These are clear examples of how corporate rule, enabled by money and politics, harms communities and ecosystems all alike. As someone who has been in the streets alongside Dr. Basaldú, protesting the incorporation of Starbase and standing at the gates of the LNG yard, I feel honored to stand in solidarity with frontline groups like South Texas Environmental Justice Network and Dr. Basaldú. So it is with great gratitude and excitement that I would like to invite Dr. Basaldú to take the floor and for you guys to please help me welcome him.
Eteapele, mautepele, lekauyen glari yen helshat, yen ishtokna, yen somisek, nenapeles yen yupes menoazo. So good evening, everybody. I am Dr. Christopher Basaldú. I am a member of the Carrizo Comecrudo Tribal Nation. And what we still call our ancestral homelands is Somisek. And in our own language, we call ourselves Eshtokna. And that translates to just meaning human beings or human persons. And I currently live in the settler town called Brownsville, Texas. I grew up in Brownsville and in Corpus Christi, Texas. And Brownsville, and plus our sister city, Matamoros, which is on the other side of the river, this is part of Somisek. Somisek is a vast area that includes a lot of what we now know as Texas and Tamaulipas, Nuevo León, Coahuila. So northeastern Mexico and Texas, a lot of Texas. That's what is Somisek. And we're the original autochthonous people here, because you have to also know that there has always been human migration, and in native North America, native South America, there has been human migration across the hemisphere since the time human beings were placed here at the time of creation. According to the stories of our elders in our community, the Eshtokna community, we are the original people in this area of land called Somisek, and our ancestral stories place the creation of human beings, not the creation of all of creation, but the creation of human beings. The placement of that creation in our stories, ancestral stories, as passed down by our elders, is what's now called La Boca Chica, the mouth of the Rio Grande. So our ties to the land here go back to the beginning of humanity here in this place. And I didn't think my introduction was going to get that heavy, but that's just where that's where my mood took me. So I grew up here in Brownsville and then went off to college on the East Coast, and then went working, and then went to graduate school, and through lots of different adventures and misadventures, I ended up back here in Brownsville. And it was actually the chairman of the tribe, the chairman of our tribal nation, who when he found out, oh, you're living in Brownsville, I was like, well, yeah, I'm back in Brownsville. And he said, well, do you know that there are proposed 3 liquid natural gas export terminals proposed for the port of Brownsville? This was several years ago, many years ago. He said, do you know that there's 3 export terminals proposed for the port of Brownsville? I said, no, I didn't know about this at all. What do I do? And he told me to go find Becca Hinojosa, my friend and colleague, and she is also one of the co-founders of the South Texas Environmental Justice Network. I'm one of the co-founders. She's also one of them. And so at the time, she was employed with one of the environmental organizations, and I simply became one of the many local community volunteers that were, volunteering their time to help organize against all 3 of those LNG terminals. Um, at the same time as that volunteering was happening, we had, sort of this sort of sneaky, quiet invasion by Elon Musk and SpaceX, through very, very in what our logic as normal human beings would call corruption, but in ways that are considered legal, because of course people who are in power, corporate powers, corporate entities, billionaires, they feel like the rules never apply to them, especially Elon Musk. And of course, our so-called judicial system treats them as if the rules and regulations do not apply to them. And so with that said, that's kind of why I say there were many aspects of that journey of bringing, the port of Brownsville, inviting companies like the fossil fuel industry through export terminals to the port of Brownsville, and you know, um, and local elected officials, local politicians who are on the side of corporates, who are on the side of corporations, who are on the side of business at all cost, who are on the side of creating wealth for the few, but not supporting the vast majority of people. This is what I mean by corruption. It may not be legal corruption on paper, but it is certainly corruption in the sense that we have local politicians, state politicians, and federal politicians, local regulators, state regulators, and federal regulators that refuse to hold corporate entities accountable, who pave the way for corporate entities, corporations, and very ecologically destructive projects to move forward, if not be fast tracked. The current regime in the White House is trying to fast track as many environmentally destructive projects as possible. And we have to understand that our local, our state, and our federal politicians do not represent the people. They represent whatever corporate interests they feel will make themselves more powerful and more wealthy. And I think Brownsville right now is a test case for that. Eastern Cameron County, Texas is a test case for that, because local elected officials are basically handing Brownsville, the coastline, handing Cameron County on a silver platter to the most environmentally destructive projects that this part of Texas has ever seen. So the fossil fuel industry, which has colonized most all of Texas and certainly all the ports. Brownsville was the last port to not be colonized by fossil fuel, and our local officials are accelerating that colonization. With SpaceX in particular, for those of you who may not be familiar with the South Texas coastline, where SpaceX has decided to locate itself and where corrupt politicians allowed SpaceX to build its first project is in the middle of 2 different wildlife refuges and adjacent to or within the boundaries of Boca Chica Beach State Park, so a Texas state park. And the location of the area, if you've never seen it, is extraordinarily beautiful with an extremely unique ecosystems, very delicate ecosystems of mud flats, algal flats, saline lagoons, hypersaline lagoons that are sometimes inundated, sometimes not because of the very flat, shallow terrain, but just also the cycles of the water and the tides. These hypersaline lagoons may or may not be filled. They're not always full. So this very delicate, beautiful ecosystem, which is directly adjacent to the coast, adjacent to wetlands, beautiful dune scapes, um, is part of a very important migratory route for so many different bird species that come through here and pass through here constantly, north and south, depending on the season. We're talking about an incredibly beautiful natural area that is now being poisoned, polluted, and destroyed by a completely unnecessary privatized space corporation trying to create a space economy where we don't really have a space economy. It's SpaceX is private, which means there is no benefit to the people. There's no benefit to the populace. If SpaceX were to ever turn a profit, those proceeds go to the corporation, to the bondholders, the stakeholder, excuse me, shareholders, and to the board. It doesn't go to the people. We're living in a situation where politicians, regulators, our government at every level is so interwoven, twisted and interwoven with corporate interests and corporations, and specifically private corporations headed by extraordinarily wealthy people with questionable or even destructive moralities. All of these things are interconnected. I can't separate them out for you. And I don't think they're separable. They're all interconnected. They all support one another. And so, coming back to the South Texas Environmental Justice Network, we started out as just a group of volunteers. And we do still have volunteers that work with us. But it's very, very new that we were able to find a little bit of grant money so that we can, survive and have a very tiny staff so that we can work on this full time. Whereas before we're talking about, we still have volunteers. But yeah, we're hoping to be able to expand our capacity so that we can have more people that can dedicate their time and their energies and their talents to actually fighting these very important fights. I want to just take a pause here and sort of bring into focus not just that we have these two extremely dangerous projects, but I want us to remember the geography. So I don't know how many people here are Brownsville or South Texas, because I know that you might be coming in from anywhere in the United States. If you were to look at a map and see where southern Cameron County, Texas is, it's directly on the coastline of the Gulf of Mexico, and adjacent, it's right by the river that we call Rio Grande, which the settler colonial United States of America and the settler colonial United States of Mexico have as a border between them. And that border is fictitious. I want to emphasize from a Native American perspective, from a Carrizo, Comecrudo perspective, that river was never a border. It was never a boundary. It's literally the source of drinking water for this valley. It's now the source of drinking water for millions of people who live in this valley. And in our language, we call it the Spirit River, the Great Spirit River. It literally connects us to life itself and every other living organism, plant and animal that takes its water, its life, literally its life from the river. Therefore, is connected to us as relatives. And this is how we perceive our land. The United States may have parked all of its hatred and its genocide on top of our land, but we still have a relationship to the land that predates the United States of America. It predates los Estados Unidos Mexicanos. It predates the Republic of Texas. It predates Columbus's voyage. It predates the invasion of Europeans and the mass-scale genocide of indigenous people. Our relationship and connection with this place and our own land is unbreakable because we are the land. Our ancestors are buried here from the beginning. And when we say ancestors, we also mean our ancestral relatives that include all these other species that a colonizer might think are just animals or just plants. Well, they're not just animals, they're not just plants. They literally are the relatives upon which we rely in order to survive, in order to live in this land. In that regard, they deserve our respect. We are duty bound as human beings to respect our relatives and our ancestors, those alive and those buried. Those relatives aren't just human relatives. Those relatives include the land itself, the water, the sea, the air, all of it. We are all related and connected to it. So I wanted to spend time to say that so that I can say that the intrusion of the fossil fuel industry is not natural, nor is it necessary. It does not need to be here. When we look at the fact that we are already in climate catastrophe planet-wide, we all know that it is anthropogenic. It is human carbon burning and human activity that is causing our atmosphere to change so much that the planet is heating. Those effects are causing problems, not just for our own species, but for multiple species. All of these crises are interconnected. The next thing we have to ask ourselves is, why are we accelerating towards this climate catastrophe? And the simple answer is unfettered, unbridled capitalism. When you look from a native perspective, me as a native person, when I look at these situations, what I see is a constant ongoing colonization and an ongoing genocide of native people, murdering native people in order to steal native land, in order to steal native resources, in order to create wealth through corporations backed by settler governments like the United States of America for the purpose of creating wealth for just a few people. And those people who are benefiting from this wealth are disproportionately white men, white European men, whether they be Euro-American or Euro-European. When you look at the boards of the LNG company, Rio Grande LNG is one of the projects. That company is Next Decade. What do you see? You see boards and presidents that are all white men. What do you do when you look at SpaceX? You see white men. You see white women. Now, when you have people participating in those systems who do not call themselves white, this is an issue I want people to think about. This is where the issue of color doesn't matter at all. You are either working to continue and promote the cycles of genocide, death, theft, corporate greed, capitalism, and colonization, or you're living your life against that, resisting that, and trying to build a life where life can exist for not just human beings, not just our species, but for us and all the other species that we're responsible to be respectful to and be good relatives. Why do I go off and talk about this? It's not just my identity. It's not just that I am Native. It is that when we come around to what the principles of environmental justice are, one of those principles is to work closely with the original indigenous people of the land itself. So I want to draw a quick distinction between environmental justice and conservation or conservationism. One of the big examples of conservationism in the United States is the development of the national park system, especially with the history of John Muir and the Sierra Club and his close relationship to the then President Theodore Roosevelt. Very briefly, that model is let's find these areas in the United States of America within the boundaries of the United States empire. Let's find these areas of natural beauty, of awe-inspiring beauty, and turn them into national parks, places where the citizens can visit, spend some time, and just see and experience how glorious these natural areas are. Let's cordon off an area and just preserve it as nature so that we can enjoy it and visit it and it looks nice and beautiful and oh look, wild animals, wild plants. Let it exist here, but let it not exist everywhere else. Or another way to say it is outside of the areas that we are calling conservation areas, those will be open to clear cutting, deforestation, mining, of all types of resource extraction, mountaintop removal, and anything and everything, unfettered suburbanization or urbanization. Unfettered, just let these other areas be fully destroyed and consumed, again, for the sake of profit, for the profit motive, not for the needs of people to actually live and survive. That's conservation. That we have an area set aside, but all other areas should be vulnerable. Conservation in the American sense, in the history of the United States, used those conservation principles to force Native people off of their own land. Again, every inch of this hemisphere is Native land. Every inch. Plymouth Rock, the White House, New York, Central Park, it's all Native land. From a Native perspective, it's all Native land. There were Native people living in every national park you know about and think is so beautiful. United States military forced Native people out of Yosemite in order to create Yosemite as a national park. Native people were forced out and away and not allowed back into their own homelands and sacred sites in order to create the national park system. That's conservationism. So the South Texas Environmental Justice Network works on the principles not of conservation, but on environmental justice, which means that when we look at areas that are slated for environmental destruction, when we look at some of the most polluted and areas where there's so much cancer, where we look and see that new environmentally destructive or poisonous projects are located, what do we find? We find that those projects are being deliberately located in Native communities, in Brown communities, in overwhelmingly Latino or communities that identify themselves as Latino or Latina or Latinx. And we find them put in Black communities, in African American communities. And if there is not a community that fits those descriptions of non-white, they put them in the poorest communities possible that may be identified as white, but they put them in the poorest communities. In other words, our corporations are already naturally corrupt in that where they want to site their projects is where they're not going to be rich white people living. They want to put the projects where poor and poor non-white people live because they hate us, because they have 500 years history of murdering us, raping us, enslaving us, destroying us, separating us from our land, separating us from sacred sites. That's normal. Everything that you know about United States politics, business, economy, capitalism, all of it, all that you think is normal is all literally built on the murder and genocide of Native people. Full stop. I will never argue that, and don't come arguing with me about it. Learn your history. Learn your history. This is indisputable. Why am I so adamant about saying that? It's because right now, Brownsville, South Padre Island, Boca Chica Beach, Port Isabel, all of these areas down here, we are very, very rapidly being destroyed by these types of projects. It's all coming at us all at once because for whatever reason, this new cycle of colonization, and it is colonization, this new cycle of colonization is happening through corporations. It's happening through these environmentally destructive, unnecessary projects. Why do I say they're unnecessary? We need power, we need fuel, we need these things. Well, we may have gotten used to using them at this level, but we don't really need them. We can reduce them. And we're not producing these things for need. Let me give another example. Right now, I told you that there were 3 proposed. Well, because of our organizing together, the South Texas Environmental Justice Group, other groups in the community, and the Carrizo Comecrudo tribe, because we work with them directly, closely, and have always worked in allegiance with the tribe, with the local people, local native people here. We actually got one of those projects canceled. It was called Innova LNG. We won. We actually won. There was enough community pushback over years of organizing here that now there's 2 proposed facilities. One of them has not broke ground yet because of how long we have delayed them. The other one, Rio Grande LNG, we delayed for years. They by their plans, they were supposed to be fully functional in operation by 2019. It's 2025 and they're still under construction. And we're still fighting them. It's getting harder to fight them under the current orange regime in the White House, in the white supremacy house. The current orange regime in the white supremacy house is making life difficult for all people of color, for all poor people, and it's making life very difficult for people who are fighting for environmental justice. Environmental justice must take into consideration social justice, racial justice. It must function on anti-racist principles. It must function by pro-Native American principles. Why? Because we're standing on Native land, every inch. Every group that claims to be working in environmental justice, if they do not align themselves with the environmental struggles of the native nation that they occupy, the land that they occupy on, is not doing enough. They're not being accountable enough in their social justice. They have not quite reached environmental justice fully if they are not aligned with the environmental struggles of Native people. And this is why we founded the South Texas Environmental Justice Network, because Sierra Club wasn't doing that. They were not aligning themselves to fighting for sacred sites of the tribe. They were interested in raising money by saying that they wanted to work with the tribe. They were using that as a sales pitch so that they could get donations and donors. But when it came down to it, they weren't actually, letting the tribe lead the work. Now, the South Texas Environmental Justice Network and the tribe working together, that is the way we've been able to have any of the wins that we've gotten, because we're not trying to. The South Texas EJ Network includes the tribe, and the tribe working here against SpaceX, against LNG, and against the wall, and against border militarization. All of those issues contribute to making a more just living, a more just society, and a cleaner environment, a better environment, all of us together. We have to do that work all together. I mentioned border militarization because for 2 major reasons. One, because the tribe, sees the river not as a border, and it never was. The tribe and tribal leadership were all really heavily affected by building the wall, because the wall has literally gone through and destroyed ancestral villages, ancestral burials, and the government doesn't care. The building of the wall and the border regime and border militarization treats our human relatives who are migrating northward to be safe, to have a better life. The United States government is dehumanizing these people, putting them in concentration camps, denying them healthcare, denying them food, denying them their liberty and freedom, many of whom are indigenous people. And when I say indigenous, I mean indigenous to the entire hemisphere. They're simply doing what their ancestors have done for thousands and thousands of years, and that is move across their homeland, which is the entire hemisphere. A lot, especially the indigenous American people that come to the border, have more right to live here than the orange menace in the white supremacy house, more right to live here than Elon Musk, more right to live here than Greg Abbott, governor of Texas. And the United States is dehumanizing them to the point of wanting to kill them and put them in new concentration camps. As they build the wall as a means to destroy the environment, and it destroys our ancestral villages that are all along the river. It's insane. It's insane and it's inhuman. And the United States continues to put more and more military resources. In other words, take all of our tax money, steal it, give it all to the military and to ICE, and then hire people and give them so many guns and razor wire and automatic rifles and bulletproof vests and helmets to come down here and occupy our land without our permission, occupy this land in order not only to dehumanize migrants, but to dehumanize us. And why am I bringing that up in the middle of fighting SpaceX, Elon Musk, and fighting the oil and gas industry? I bring it up because that militarization has a chilling effect on the human beings who already live here. Many people here in the valley are already poor, work 3-4 jobs to keep their family going, keep them alive. We are paid very low wages down here. And so people are, a lot of their time, they might love to volunteer on environmental campaigns, but they're literally working 2 or 3 jobs. So they need to keep their home fires lit. They need to keep their kids together. They need to keep their lives together. When you add militarization, when you add the constant struggle just to exist, especially if you're not documented, there's no such thing as an illegal human being. We just have people who may not have the documents that the government wants to see. But the reason we even have people like that in the first place is because the United States continues to destroy the rest of the world. And so poor people have to come here just to survive. And then the United States economy, again, back to corporations, the United States economy benefits by paying these human beings nothing. And then when those people ask for their wages, all their boss has to do is call up ICE and then they get deported. Do you see how all of that is interconnected? All of those injustices are happening right here on our homeland against our permission. We don't want that to happen. And I also want to add, neither SpaceX nor any of the gas companies, pipeline companies, oil companies, none of these companies, none of the regulators, none of them ever consulted with the leadership of our nation, our tribal nation. Therefore, they do not have free, prior, and informed consent. Therefore, they are in violation of the United Nations Universal Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People. The border wall, these concentration camps, SpaceX itself, these LNG companies, the Rio Grande LNG, Texas LNG, and the Rio Bravo pipeline, all of them are in violation of human rights. They are human rights violations. Now, protesting. What do? Oh, let's go protest. We can. And we have to be careful because on September 1st, 2019, a law in Texas came into effect that classifies certain things as critical infrastructure, especially pipelines, oil pipelines. And any protester caught disturbing critical infrastructure is open to prosecution and federal incarceration for 8 to 10 years. So protests have to be relatively mild down here because we don't want to be sacrificing people and throwing them into the criminal injustice system and, put someone in jail if the prosecutors want to do that. So let's talk about legislative corruption. What we've seen this year from the Texas legislative session is the epitome of neo-fascist corruption, neo-fascist lawfare, like using the law literally as a weapon. What legislators did is pass multiple laws that were written by SpaceX lobbyists in order to give SpaceX and its factory town designation called Starbase, want to give them more power. So the state legislature added SpaceX, Starbase, and their failing rocket program. They gave that the same status as critical infrastructure. So now if people were to protest out there, they could be subject to prosecution under the critical infrastructure law. On top of that, the state legislature has taken authority away from opening and closing the State Highway 4, which is the only road in and out to get to Boca Chica Beach. They've taken the authority of opening and closing that road away from the county and given it to Starbase, Elon Musk's little company town. So now, September 1st, 2025, that law goes into effect, that Starbase is the final authority for opening and closing the only road, a state highway, that gives people access to Boca Chica Beach, a public beach. All beaches in Texas are public. They cannot be private. That's the Texas Open Beaches Act, by the way. But the power, the authority to shut down the road and therefore access to Boca Chica Beach has been moved away from Cameron County to Starbase, basically SpaceX, the company town. So September 1st, it may be that SpaceX chooses to shut down Highway 4 and access to Boca Chica Beach forever, thus taking away legally our opportunity, our access to going to the public beach called Boca Chica Beach, which is sacred land for our people, for the original people. It's sacred land because it is adjacent to the mouth of the river where our creation stories tell us is the beginning of us as human beings. So now, my friends, do you see how all of this is connected? Do you see how even thinking about laws, when they prop up a genocidal Nazi psychopath like Elon Musk, and any oil company or gas company executive, when they prop up those kind of people, what are you going to get? You are going to get laws that are unjust, and you are going to get, through this border militarization, you are going to get not police officers, not law enforcement. You are going to get soldiers who want to murder and kill Native and Indigenous people when they stand up for their inalienable human rights. That's what's going on in Brownsville. And this is why we're fighting. So, Nenapalech, thank you very much. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Dr. Basaldú.
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 Yeah, and
Thank you so
thank you. I'm open to answering any questions. I know that was really rambly and kind of stream of consciousness, but it kind of gets things moving as to what's going on here, really.
Yeah, no, and Alfonso's been sharing some of the nightmare too as it continues to unfold. I do want to open it up to to questions or comments to everyone. So it'd be open stack, so you can raise your hand in stack or put your name, just put stack in the chat and we'll open it up to you. I do have a question. So I took a class, it was space law, and they were writing this. It's been a while now. It's been a couple of decades. And a decade and a half. And already starting to divvy up and monetize and talk about these things. I know that it's this small little town in Texas, but the microcosm, as you said, and the intersectional uh, disasters that are going on are just mind-blowing how far it reaches, but the microcosm in one little space, and how it's like a ground zero for what we're seeing transpire everywhere. So what did we do? Like you said, putting folks in danger that are already traumatized by not just history, but what's going on every single day, and knowing that they're being targeted. I mean, I read something recently about how they're advertising ICE for job recruitment is like, protect your culture. What are you talking about? And you don't have to have any formal education. So literally trying to find people who will not question and may not have an educational foundation of knowing that they're going against Geneva Conventions and international law, as well as just I don't know. I want to open it up. I still need time to like absorb some of this information as well. And I see your hand, Lynn. Would anybody else like to get on stack? Okay, let me open it up for you, Lynn, and I'm sure everybody's like me trying to absorb
Thank you, Christopher. Right on. There's an important group. It's Jeanette Rankin Peace Center in Montana when I lived on the Indian reservation. And there's a fellow, his name's Leon, and I think it's Redbone. He's the son of the chief of the Blackfoot tribe. He's really, really critical. And then another guy, I put him in a bunch of contacts I have here. He's Kevin, Annete. Have you heard of him?
I don't think I know him. Kevin what?
Annett. And his website is Murder by Decree. He was from Ireland. He was a preacher. He started helping the Native Americans in Canada and got their real history, and was just, I mean, it's so insanely sick. I can't even tell you. I mean, he even did a couple interviews through the last 25 years about satanic ritual abuse, and with the Mormons. And the Vatican Nation is our Supreme Court. Okay, so it goes back and back and back. Okay, so and then there's a Creek Nation constitution. You know that one? Okay,
a lot of Native nations have constitutions. Yeah.
Okay, and but that guy Kevin Annett has been going after the Vatican for at least 20 years, at least, and he's got so much dirt on them. And the Pope, the last I heard from the Pope, he is selling a huge mansion palace in Italy, in Rome area. He knows. And then this other one I put in too. Do you know about the Native Organizing Alliance Group?
Do you know anybody there that you could name? Because sometimes I
Yeah,
know
Deb
people.
Howland. Deb Howland. Do you know her, right? Deb?
I know of Deb Holland. Yes.
Okay, Howland.
Oh,
Hallland.
Allen. Deb Allen.
Yeah, she's running for governor again in New Mexico. Please help her, everybody. She's Native American.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
And she was part of the Department of Interior. And people need to understand how
Oh,
important it is that you guys take over the Department of Interior again. And
Deb Holland. Deb
yeah,
Holland. She's Laguna specifically.
oh, is she? I thought she was both.
Laguna is one of the native nations. Laguna Pueblo in New Mexico. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, good. Yeah. And did you know
Thank you.
she used to be part of the Department of Interior till they got rid of her, the big oil with the new
Mhm.
president.
Yes, she
Okay.
was the secretary for a while.
Okay.
Awesome.
Yes.
Thank you, Lynn. And she has some resources that she shared.
Okay, and real quick for all of us is the Al Green and John Boniface and Impeach Trump Again group with Lights On with Jessica Denson with constitutional lawyers of what to do and how to do it and how to gather our 600 political science groups and take our country back. It's really awesome. Really, really.
Awesome. We'll check it out. I saw it in the chat. I'm going to check it out
Okay,
after the call.
thank you. Thank
Thanks,
you.
Lynn.
Thank you. Love you guys. Thank you.
Love you. Lawrence and then Mark. Yeah.
Thank you. So sorry I can't have my camera on, I'm driving, but I am working on a project where we can put native plants back in these storm drain retention ponds in the Central Valley, San Joaquin Valley specifically, where the land is flat. So they put little depressions on the ground and pump water into them during heavy rains to keep the streets from flooding and homes from flooding. And I got permission to put native plants, but I want to reach out to Indigenous leadership for their wisdom and partnership. And I don't know how to go about that. So that's my one question. My other question is you explained the problems really well. And as far as solutions for ending all this nightmare of settler colonialism and corporate rule, um, what do you see as immediate proximate steps and then our ultimate goal or ways we can work towards the ultimate long-term solution? Pass.
As far as like your local question, you would need to try to find out who are the local indigenous people for the land area
They're
in
they're
question.
they're the Yokuts and the Miwoks.
Right. Then you can try to contact their tribal governments directly. And a lot of, I mean, it depends on the native nation and it depends on what resources that they have. Um, Many native nations are not, they don't have a lot of money. But if those tribes have a cultural preservation office or an
Okay.
historic preservation office, you can
Uh-huh.
try to contact their historic preservation officer or their cultural preservation officer. And the reason why I mentioned that is because in cases where those types of offices exist and are very active, they they have connections and contacts with other elders in the tribe who may have the kind of knowledge you're talking about. You see what I mean?
Yes. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's no problem. And as far as like what to do in the ultimate goal, I say land back, all of it, the entire hemisphere, including the islands.
Okay, there's a big move. There's a big movement for that starting here in the San Francisco Bay Area and Northern California. And I haven't been a part of that lately, but you made an incredibly persuasive case. So I will be joining that movement. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
And
Lawrence.
I also
you have-
just want to add that we are on the precipice of a very dangerous time. And I will implicate myself in this as well. I mean, I am afraid of losing my comfort. And of course, when I say comfort, I'm not talking about the same level of comfort as Jeff Bezos or Elon Musk. I'm talking about the normal human, I want a safe place to live and food. That's what I mean by safe. But it is possible that we are on the precipice of extraordinarily unsafe times. So while I want people to be aware of how we can use legal systems, legal structures, and even the constitutional structure that we would like to change or amend directly, um, we need to also, how do I say, I want to invite people to think deeper than just those kind of struggles. They are tools available to us. Let us use them. You know what I mean? But think deeper about what is to be done. Get to know your neighbors. Try to build community. Try to build trust because our government has proven in the past 6 months that they want us to die. Our government wants us, and I mean us by citizens, but also residents, people who live within these boundaries, but who may not be citizens. The government, that's what I call by us. The government wants us to be the slaves of corporations. The government wants to be the gun at our head, literally, wants to be the gun at our head to make sure that we are enslaved, wage slaves, but who knows what's coming down the pike. They want us to be wage slaves to these corporations only to make the top of those corporations impossibly wealthy. We have to resist the economy as well. We have to find ways to get the things that we need to live and survive together in community as groups and take care of one another. That's how we are going to survive this long term. And it does mean that we may become uncomfortable or far less comfortable than what we're used to. But again, if we start rebuilding community, because think about it, that is what genocide and colonization destroyed, was the ability of human beings to live in community. We need to start trying to rebuild that. And by community, I mean that we're taking care of one another. It's not some hippy dippy flower power feeling that we get with one another. It means we are helping our communities, neighborhoods find the resources that they need to live and survive, economic, medical, all of these things. You know, and we have to be ready to understand that police, especially ICE, it's obvious with ICE, but we have to understand it's the same with police as well. But let's just stick to ICE because it's so easy to see. This is an occupying power that wants to commit violence upon us. It wants to do that. So when we say build community, it means that we also have to learn how to keep each other safe physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. We have to learn these skills because they have been uneducated out of us collectively. So, what is to be done is not just if you think like electoral organizing, that should be like 5% of your what is to be done, 5% and less is electoralism. We got 95% building community and relearning what it means to be human because we cannot rely on this government to help us. The government is proving very rapidly that it wants to kill us.
Yeah, and I think that's probably some of where I'm finding some hope in even my community, you know, which if for example, if ICE moves in my town, then it goes all over the place. I was just honored and humbled to to see right away how beautiful and how important that is for me. Like democracy, safety and democracy kind of go hand in hand, right? And so you know, if we ever truly get to genuine democracy, that aspiration that we grew up believing was what we were living in, or were taught that we were living in. Anyway, I'm going to turn it over to Mark for your question.
Hello, thank you, Christopher. Oh, am I muted? No, I'm not.
No,
Okay, good. All righty. I'm curious to hear. I've got a couple of things I wanted to ask you or talk about, but I wanted to hear. You talked about your work with resisting the LNG pipelines or ports they're putting in, and you spoke about also then the destruction that SpaceX and Elon Musk is wanting to wreak upon your neighborhood. And you talked about the fact that you've been able to, at least at this point, delay much of this being done. I would like to hear in perhaps short form, brief summaries, perhaps, of some of the actions you've been able to take to make that possible, to delay, to express the will of the local indigenous people and the community at large, to prevent some of this, prevent the LNG companies from having a free hand and just doing whatever the hell they want to do. And so with that, I'll stop there. But I have one other question. Was just I didn't know if are you familiar with the work of Mark Charles, Unsettling Truths, the Doctrine of Discovery?
I'm familiar with resistance and intellectual resistance to the doctrine of discovery itself, but not his work specifically.
Well, he was a South Korean man, Soong Chan Ra, wrote a book called Unsettling Truths, and I think it was released in 2019 or something like that. But he is of Navajo background. His father was a Navajo Indian. His mother was of Dutch origin. But anyway, I encourage you and everyone really to read that book. The title of the book is Unsettling Truths. And he takes you through the history of the Catholic. I'm Catholic, but the Catholic Church's impact upon colonization through the doctrine of discovery, and brings it into the present time. He's seeking to come. His effort is to create a Truth and Reconciliation Commission of sorts to try to help bring it out into the light of day and have the American people understand it and own it and began to try to reconcile. He didn't say, he doesn't use the word reconcile because he says that would mean you'd have to return to something that existed. He wants conciliation, not reconciliation. So, because there's never been any conciliation to reconcile. So, anyway, with that, I'll be quiet then and let you answer my questions there about the work you've been doing and how you've been going about it. Have you been working with other organizations like Earth Justice or any of those other kinds of environmental programs?
Yeah. I mean, it's not my work. I'm just one of the people here, and we're supporting each other throughout the work. A lot
Unfortunate
of
choice of words, yes.
It's okay.
Yeah.
So again, like I stated before, we're in a very fraught sort of legal and trigger happy land. Texas's form of fascism is extremely virulent. And of course, Professor Gerald Horne at the university, African American historian at the University of Houston, I agree with his assessment that Texas is literally the vanguard of global fascism. You know, it all starts in Texas. A lot of the techniques of fascism began in the white settlement of Texas and the genocide of indigenous people of Texas. With that said, again, we're in a very trigger happy area. So officially, what I can say publicly out of my mouth to other people, especially people I do not know, is South Texas Environmental Justice Network has only participated in forms of resistance that are legible to the systems that we are trying to resist, and legal, and also nonviolent. What that means is we try to stay abreast as best we can of every public comment period and get as many people out as we can to make public comment. That usually means that we have to have community education meetings to sort of bring the community in to tell them what the issues are and how to make a public comment in some cases. It's included the regular normal ideas that most people here in this phone call are probably already participating in. You draft petitions, you spread them as quickly as possible, and you get people to sign on to them. You show up at your city council meetings, you show up at your county commissioner court meetings, you make public, you keep your eyes on the agendas, and you look for the agendas when they come up that are going to be favoring SpaceX, favoring LNG, and you fight them. We've done so many of these things, and it's exhausting to keep track of them all. But it has also included demanding meetings with executives from the banks that fund these projects to get them to divest. We have worked with other partners and other organizations in order to demand meetings with executives of the insurance companies. This is thing people need to think about this too. Find out who are the big major financial institutions, the banks and the insurance companies that are insuring and underwriting these projects and their labor, and you go after them and you demand meetings from them. And in some cases, we've even been lucky enough to contact people who may be shareholders in a particular bank or a particular insurance, like financial institution. And at the annual shareholders meeting, they will yield their time to us, and we will make a statement to the board and demand from them to follow the principles of, like, for example, the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People. We let them know that these companies have not consulted with the indigenous people. What else? Even federal agencies that are tasked with regulating these things, we've demanded meetings, gotten meetings, we've demanded of them, we've told them the truth, because of course all of these corporations are so corrupt. They tell the regulators what they think the regulators want to hear. The regulators don't have any capacity to do their own due diligence. So we meet with regulators, one, tell them there's no free, prior, and informed consent, so this is a human rights violation. And we try to expose the lies, especially when it comes to environmental review. We try to expose the lies or the shoddiness of the environmental reviews, because remember, right now in our system, it is actually the corporations who hire firms to do the research and write the reports for the environmental assessments. And so, of course, no company, no environmental company, contracting company, is going to receive a check from SpaceX and give SpaceX a failing grade in their environmental review. You see what I mean? And so that gets sent to the FAA. The FAA rubber stamps it. When it comes to gas and oil, they make their environmental impact statement. They lie, basically. I'm trying to make this brief. They lie. We make public comment on their lies and try to expose that to the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission. We try to make sure that the commissioners of the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission know that it's shoddy work, that they're lying, that they're not telling the full truth, that they haven't had consulted with the tribe or any other, native elder. We do anything and everything that we can think of as a way to get at any aspect of these projects, because you have to remember these projects are big. It's not just you have to fight the company, you fight their funders, you fight their insurers, you fight the regulators that look over them, you fight the local governments that approve them or give them tax abatements. And that's what we do. And it takes a lot of time and energy. And we're all tired, we're all burnt out, we're all doing it while surviving racism, transphobia, homophobia, misogyny. We're fighting classism. Locally here in Brownsville and in Cameron County in the Rio Grande Valley, it's actually, white, retired, cisgender transplants here that actually have done work to they foul our work. They take credit for any wins that we get, and then they make sure that they disrupt or make sure that we don't get the good work done. They sabotage our work because they have that mentality of conservationism, like I told you before, and not environmental justice. So yeah, I mean, we're struggling and fighting at all of those levels, and probably even some ways that I haven't even stated. To get people to show up for a protest, I mean, that's like the simplest, or I don't know what to call it. That's just one of the things that we do that's visible, but all of this other action is almost invisible, right? And I also just want to add in there, other co-founders, tribal leadership elders from the tribe, and myself, as one of the co-founders. We've done these meetings with bank executives or insurance executives, financial institutions. We've literally done this in Switzerland. If we have to travel or raise the funds to travel or work with other groups that are willing to fund us, like Rainforest Action Network, I can shout them out. Earth Justice, yeah, when we can get a lawyer that can work from Earth Justice. Right now, Texas Rio Grande Legal Aid is helping us out. We've literally gone to other nations, other countries, France, United Kingdom, Switzerland, Belgium, Sweden, Germany. We've done these things because we're trying to get disinvestment. Myself and one of the other co-founders, we've gone to Germany twice to actually be on the front line of actionists when we've shut down ports that are liquid natural gas import terminals. We're fighting the export terminals here in the Gulf Coast, and then we go in solidarity to Europe and we fight with their activists. We get on their front lines and support them in solidarity to fight the import terminals that they're trying to build. So we do a lot.
Yeah,
Wow,
all the way down the
very
line.
impressive. Very impressive. Thank you. That was very good information. I would have, as an individual, it's easy to become stymied, and it's great to hear the insights that you bring to this question. So thank you.
You're welcome.
That was one of my thoughts. How are you at because we know that things are coming through the pipeline, so to speak. So there's different avenues, and I've went to different places at different points of the resistance. And so that question was answered. You're doing it all the way down the line too. So
yeah. We try.
And
I mean, we
Nida?
can do.
Oh.
Because we're just human and we have limited capacities too, but we try what we can. Sorry.
Absolutely. Appreciate that too. And am I
Anaid.
pronouncing it correctly?
Anaid.
Anaid. Yes. Yep.
I'm originally from Brownsville. Hey, I yo-yo I yo-yo from the social justice space just because there's a lot going on here. But actually, Christopher, I was going to mention the work that y'all do, like literally internationally, because I yo-yo in and out of the social justice space. I definitely keep track of what's happening. I wanted to share more Perfect Union. I'm sending it in the chat. Did a video a little bit of what was happening in Brownsville. That's something that I thought was amazing. Y'all are constantly putting stuff in the space, contacting different huge news networks, and I just want people on the call to keep track of what's happening in Brownsville, keep track of what's happening in South Padre. South Texas Environmental Justice Network does a lot, and there's constantly press. covering what they're doing because they're just doing such amazing stuff, and having the support from the, I don't know how to word it, like inside of the US along what's happening in the border is so essential, because that is its own type of privilege. Like Christopher mentioned, there is a lot of militarization, and it is going to get a lot worse for us, and we're going to see the pressure a lot more, and it's only going to move inward. So the more support and the more eyes that we could have in Brownsville, in Sal Padre, is appreciated. And for Christopher, I yo-yo inside and out of the social justice space because I work full time, and before that I worked like 2 jobs part time. So again, full time.
Yeah.
But like, what would you advise someone who's trying not to yo-yo in the social justice space?
Well,
Yeah.
I don't know about advice. It's just we do what we can when we can. Um, what what we do, like in our internal meetings, South Texas Environmental Justice Network, I mean, we do sometimes talk about um, like the compassion that we develop for one another, because fighting things that are this toxic, it is toxic. I mean, America is toxic to us, especially Native people, but brown people in general, Black people, America is just toxic. The economy is toxic. The laws are toxic. The education is toxic. The medical systems are toxic. Everything, literally, everything wants us dead. So we understand that people's capacities and burnout, it happens real quick. It happens real hard. And so we know when people need to step out and take a break. We don't shame them. We don't add to that toxicity. We know that people can come and go as they need to. And whew, I don't know how any other way to say it. It becomes, it's like whatever extra energy or time we have, it's so difficult because it is taken up by that capitalist wage slavery. So we want to spend time with our families and hang out. We want to spend time with our friends because that's what being human is all about. But it's all atomized, it's all ripped apart. It's all like we have to go somewhere and waste money because we can't be in public without spending money, right? So that's another thing that we're trying to fight. It's like building community, again, breaking from the concept of an individual, what can I do? It's that we need to build community and also sort of reclaim spaces for community to just be, but take care of one another. And also, we're not going to find any of these solutions individually. We have to find solutions collectively, um, because it's overwhelming. It's absolutely overwhelming for just one person. And it's very easy to fall into despair and depression. And we need to be compassionate with ourselves even when we do. Uh, like, if somebody's like in the throes of being really depressed and desperate, and they're only able to show up for 1 hour at a protest or maybe 1 hour to phone bank when we're phone banking to get people to go make public comment, if that's all that they can do, all of us should cultivate inside of us a deep compassion and gratitude that somebody's taken that 1 hour that they may have had extra away from work and their family, that 1 hour of energy that they barely are hanging on to by a thread. It's like the world for them in that moment. And I can do a better, but we can do a better job together of really showing our appreciation of that level of generosity from someone, acknowledging it and acknowledging them for that.
Thank you for that, Christopher. Did that help answer your question? And thank you all for being here in this space with us tonight. It's always such an honor, and I'm so grateful to be able to connect with the work that you are doing, and hopefully find ways. We've been talking about it. How can we provide that mutual aid, like you said, keeping all eyes on the work that's happening there and finding ways to stand in solidarity and building that community. That's where it's at, right? We're on this journey with real people,
Yeah.
with real lives and real hearts and real breath and real needs. So, Alfonso, I see your hands up.
Yes, thank you, Jamie. And once again, thank you, Dr. Basaldú. I know that we have kept you for more longer than I told you it was going to last, but thank you so much for bearing with us. If I may have the last question, you have shown very clearly how border militarization, environmental destruction, and corporate control are all interconnected. Do you have any advice, as you have heard, many of us are involved with different groups, any advice on how the movements can focus not only on their individual issues, but actually expand their vision to address the whole picture? And secondly, is there any actions or campaigns that we can lift up that you guys are working on in South Texas to prevent the corporate colonization? Something that we can share along our networks.
Okay, I'll try my best to answer that one. That's also another big question. I just added in the chat if you can if all of you can access the chat. I put in our regular website information, but I also put into the chat a link to a sign-on letter, and it's a sign-on letter that both individuals and also organizations can sign on to if they wish. And it's a sign-on letter asking the FAA to pause SpaceX activity and launches until the FAA really has done a complete environmental assessment, environmental impact statement about the explosion risks of SpaceX, because they're trying to blow up the biggest rocket in human history. And of course, I'm talking about SpaceX and LNG, and it's like, why is he talking about these two different things? They are 5 miles apart from one another. 5 miles. We have the biggest rocket in human history blowing up periodically, and it's 5 to 6 miles away from, if these LNG terminals come online at full capacity, we're talking methane. 100% of that methane to the global market. Not a drop of it is going to be used domestically. That's how damaging it is. That's how exploited our community is. What is going to be the explosion risk in a poor community of the largest rocket in human history? If it were to fall onto a fully functional operating LNG export terminal, this could be catastrophic. And so we want the FAA to actually study the cumulative impact of these environmental issues and also the risks of explosion, because this has never happened before. This is not happening any otherwhere on the planet, that you have a private space company exploding rockets, testing rockets, blowing them up, and having it next to a methane export terminal. So anyway, I put in the chat the link. Read the letter and sign on if you feel, and share it to all your family and friends and even your enemies if they're interested in these types of things.
Thank you, Christopher. And we'll also put it up on the website and share it out.
Thanks.
We'll take in the next newsletter. Okay, Alfonso was taking the last question. We have pushed it right past. We do bill this for 90 minutes just in case, because it usually does, as we do other check-ins too. Usually folks also share what they're doing, but this has been such a lively, insightful, and really, really important conversation. So deeply grateful for you coming and sharing what you're doing there, a part of yourself and your time, most importantly, the thing that we could never give back. How we spend our time matters, right? And never underestimate the power of a handful of people, right, to change the world, because that's what it's taken. And being on this journey with all of y'all is an honor. So thank you for taking the time. We'll share this out. We'll also post this on the website it would be on ecologynetwork.org/ Dr. Christopher, or we'll probably do it like that. Christopher Basaldú.
Basaldú.
Basaldú. I'm so sorry. I apologize for that. So we'll be able to find it there, and then we'll share it again on social media. So thank you again. And again, we're going to try to find ways to create that mutual aid that is needed. What I heard today is, of course, keeping your eye out, sharing this information, and finding ways to connect whenever we can. Lynn Broader Feathers, thank you so much for all the healing energy that you're sending our way. And I hope to see you all again. We do this once a month. And we have another amazing speaker next month. Cody, it's good to see you. I know this is late for you, and thank you again for sharing all your insight too. You got 2 pieces published recently that were shared in the newsletter as well. Thank you all for all the work that you do. And again, feel free to contact me anytime. And let me know if there's anything I can do to assist in the work you're doing, your stand in allyship, and raise up any of the work that needs to be shared.
And thank you, everybody, for listening so intently. It was very enjoyable, and free Palestine.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Amen. Thank you.
Caring jobs, no more killing jobs. Caring jobs for Mother Earth and humanity only. Love you. Thank you. All money's shifted. All monies. Thank you.